My grandfather taught me something when I was 16 that I didn't understand until I actually did it. He said, do this for 3 days. Just 3 days. If it doesn't change everything about how you see the world and your place in it, never do it again. I was skeptical. 3 days? How could 3 days change anything? I'd been alive for 16 years. What could 72 hours possibly do? But he was insistent. 3 days. That's all I'm asking. You can do anything for 3 days. So I did it. And he was right. Those 3 days changed my entire life trajectory. Not because of what happened during those 3 days, but because of what I learned about myself and how the world actually works. I'm now 47 years old. I've done this practice dozens of times over the years. Each time, it resets my perspective, clarifies my thinking, and reminds me what actually matters. And I've taught it to my children, to friends, to anyone who'll listen. The practice is simple. Uncomfortable, but simple. And if you actually do it for 3 days, not think about doing it, not plan to do it, but actually do it, it will change your life too. Here's what you do. For 3 days, you live as if you have nothing and must rebuild from zero. You strip away every assumption, every comfort, every crutch. You prove to yourself that you can survive and even thrive with just your mind and your effort. Now, before you dismiss this as some kind of spiritual retreat or camping trip, let me be clear about what this actually involves and why it works. You don't quit your job. You don't abandon your family. You don't actually give away your possessions. This isn't about being homeless or suffering for suffering's sake. This is about temporarily removing the psychological crutches that prevent you from seeing reality clearly. Here are the specific rules for the 3 days. My grandfather was very precise about this. The rules matter because they create the conditions for insight. For 3 days, you spend no money. Zero. Not a dollar. Not for food, not for entertainment, not for transportation, nothing. You eat what you already have or what you can create from what you have. You go nowhere that costs money. You consume nothing that requires purchase. This immediately reveals something most people never realize: how much of their daily life is just consumption. How much of what they think they need is actually just habit. How much money they spend without thinking. Most people can't imagine going 3 days without spending money. They panic at the thought. But I need coffee in the morning. But I need lunch. But I need gas. But I need. None of it is actually need. All of it is habit and comfort. For 3 days, you use no digital entertainment. No social media, no streaming, no YouTube, no games, no mindless scrolling. Your phone is for emergencies only. Your computer is for work only if absolutely required. Everything else is off. This reveals how much of your mental space is occupied by distraction. How much of your attention is being stolen. How much of your life is spent consuming content created by others instead of creating value yourself. People literally go through withdrawal from this. Anxiety, boredom, restlessness. Because they've never spent time alone with their own thoughts. They've never experienced silence without immediately filling it with noise. For 3 days, you talk to no one unless absolutely necessary. Work communication if required, basic family logistics, emergencies. But no social calls, no texting friends, no unnecessary conversations. You spend 3 days largely silent. This reveals how much of your social interaction is just filling time. How much talking you do that serves no purpose. How many of your relationships are based on habit rather than actual value? How much energy you spend on conversation that goes nowhere. The silence also reveals what you actually think when you're not performing for others. What you actually want versus what you say you want. Who you actually are versus who you pretend to be. For 3 days, you create something tangible every day. Something physical or digital that didn't exist before. Could be writing, could be building something, could be art, could be fixing something broken, could be organizing chaos into order. But you must create, not just consume. This reveals that you're capable of making things. That value comes from creation, not consumption. That you have more agency and capability than you realize. That sitting around waiting for opportunities is a choice, not a necessity. Most people live their entire lives consuming what others create. These 3 days force you to be on the other side of that equation. And finally, for 3 days, you document everything. You write down what you're thinking, what you're feeling, what you're learning, what's hard, what's surprising. Not for anyone else, for yourself. To process and understand the experience. This documentation is crucial because the insights come fast, and if you don't capture them, they disappear. The discomfort creates clarity, but clarity fades when comfort returns unless you've recorded what you learned. Now let me tell you what actually happens during these 3 days, because the pattern is remarkably consistent across everyone I've seen do this. Day 1 is mostly misery. You wake up and immediately want coffee, but you're not spending money. You want to check your phone, but you can't. You want to call a friend, but you're staying silent. Everything feels wrong and uncomfortable. You're bored. You're anxious. You're irritable. You keep reaching for things that aren't there: your phone, your wallet, your usual distractions. It's like quitting smoking. Your brain is screaming for the dopamine hits it's used to getting. This is when most people quit. This is stupid. What's the point of being uncomfortable? I have money, why not use it? I have a phone, why not use it? They rationalize their way out of the discomfort. But if you push through day 1, something shifts. You start to notice things. How much time you actually have when you're not filling it with consumption and distraction. How much mental energy you have when you're not fragmenting your attention across 12 different inputs. You start to get creative about food. You find things in your pantry you forgot you had. You make meals from random ingredients. You realize you actually have plenty, you were just bored with what you had and wanted novelty. You start to notice silence. How it's actually peaceful once you stop fighting it. How your mind starts processing things it never had time to process because you were always distracting it with input. You create something. Maybe it's bad. Maybe it's awkward. But it's yours. You made it. It didn't exist before you made it. This feels different than consuming. There's pride in it, even if it's small. Day 1 ends and you're exhausted. Not physically, mentally. Because you've been present and conscious all day instead of sleepwalking through habits. You sleep deeply. Day 2 is where the real insights start. You wake up and the discomfort is less. You're adjusting. Your brain is learning to function without constant stimulation. The boredom is fading, replaced by something else: curiosity, maybe, or just calm. You notice how much of what you thought was you was actually just habits and reactions. Without your usual routines and distractions, you're seeing yourself more clearly. Some of what you see is uncomfortable. Some is surprising. All of it is valuable. You start solving problems creatively. How to get somewhere without spending money. How to entertain yourself without digital input. How to create something valuable with just what you have. Your brain, freed from its usual patterns, starts working differently. You notice other people more. Because you're not on your phone, you actually see them. You notice behaviors you never noticed before. How everyone is on their phones. How everyone is consuming constantly. How rare it is to see someone just sitting and thinking. You feel different. Clearer. Less scattered. More focused. The mental noise that's usually background static has quieted. Thoughts form more completely. Ideas come more easily. You're functioning better despite having less input. You create something better than day 1. Because you're less distracted, more focused, more creative. You're starting to enjoy the process of making instead of consuming. Day 2 ends and you're different than you were on day 1. Something has shifted. You're starting to understand what this is about. Day 3 is revelation. You wake up and you don't miss the things you're not doing. The discomfort is gone. You're actually enjoying this. The simplicity feels good. The focus feels powerful. The creativity feels natural. You realize how much money you normally waste. Not on things you need, but on filling voids that don't need to be filled. On buying solutions to problems that don't exist. On consuming because you're bored or anxious or avoiding something. You realize how much time you waste. Hours every day on nothing. On scrolling, on content that doesn't matter, on conversations that go nowhere. Time you could be using to build something, learn something, create something. You realize how much mental energy you waste. On worrying about things you can't control. On comparing yourself to others. On consuming news and content that makes you anxious but doesn't enable action. On maintaining relationships that drain you. You realize how capable you actually are. You survived 3 days with just what you have and your own resourcefulness. You created things. You solved problems. You functioned without all the crutches you thought you needed. This is the insight that changes everything. You are more capable and need less than you thought. The implications of this are massive. If you need less money. If you need less money, you have more freedom. More choice about what work you do, where you live, how you spend your time. If you're more capable, you have more options. You can create instead of just consuming. You can solve instead of just complaining. You can build instead of just waiting. If you can function with less distraction, you can focus more intensely. And focus is the multiplier on everything. Focused effort builds wealth. Scattered effort builds nothing. Day 3 ends and you're different than you were 3 days ago. Not completely transformed. 3 days isn't magic. But shifted. You see things you didn't see before. You understand things you didn't understand before. You have perspective you didn't have before. Now here's what happens after the 3 days are over. This is crucial because the 3 days are just the catalyst. The real change comes from what you do with the insights. You return to normal life with new eyes. You notice how much you were spending on nothing. How much time you were wasting on nothing. How much mental energy you were giving to nothing. And it bothers you in a way it didn't before. You start making changes. Small at first. You cut some subscriptions you don't actually value. You delete some apps you don't actually need. You stop some habits you don't actually enjoy. You decline some invitations you don't actually want. These small changes compound. The money you save gets invested. The time you reclaim gets used for creation. The mental energy you preserve gets focused on what matters. And slowly, your life improves. But more importantly, you have proof. Proof that you can survive and thrive with less. Proof that you're capable of more than you thought. Proof that focus and creativity matter more than consumption and distraction. This proof changes how you make decisions. It makes you braver about leaving bad situations because you know you can rebuild. It makes you more strategic about how you spend time and money because you've experienced the difference. It makes you more focused because you've experienced the power of focused attention. My grandfather did this practice every year for his entire adult life. 3 days of living as if he had nothing. 3 days of stripping away all the noise and comfort and distraction. 3 days of remembering what actually matters. He did it after the Holocaust when he actually had nothing. It wasn't practice then, it was survival. But he kept doing it even after he became wealthy because it kept him sharp, kept him focused, kept him from becoming soft and complacent. He taught it to my father, who taught it to me, who's teaching it to my children. Every single person in my family who's done this has reported the same thing. It changes how you see everything. Now let me address the objections, because I know what you're thinking. I can't take 3 days off from my life. You're not taking 3 days off. You're still working, still taking care of responsibilities. You're just removing the consumption and distraction that fills the gaps between responsibilities. Most people waste 3 days' worth of time every week anyway. This is just being conscious about it for 72 hours. 3 days won't change anything. You're right if you don't actually do it. But if you actually do it, actually follow the rules, actually push through the discomfort, actually stay present for the full 3 days, it will change something. Maybe not everything, but something important. This sounds like privilege. Not everyone can afford to not spend money for 3 days. This is literally the opposite of privilege. This is practicing poverty so you're prepared for it, so you know you can handle it, so you're not dependent on constant consumption. The wealthy do this to stay sharp. The struggling should do it to build confidence and capability. What if there's an emergency? Then you handle it. These are guidelines, not a suicide pact. If your kid gets sick, you take them to the doctor. If your car breaks down on the way to work, you fix it. The point is removing unnecessary consumption, not creating actual hardship. I already live pretty simply. Good. This will be easier for you than for people who are completely dependent on constant consumption and distraction. Do it anyway. You'll still learn something. Let me give you some specific examples of what people discovered during their 3 days, because the insights vary but some patterns repeat. One person realized they were spending $800 a month on food delivery because they were too tired and distracted to cook. 3 days of eating what was in their pantry revealed they had plenty of food and cooking was actually relaxing when they weren't doing it while trying to multitask. They cut their food spending by 70% and used the money to pay off debt. One person realized they were spending 20 to 30 hours per week on social media accomplishing nothing. 3 days without it revealed they didn't actually enjoy it, they were just compulsively checking it to avoid silence and boredom. They deleted 3 apps and haven't reinstalled them in 2 years. One person realized they were maintaining friendships out of obligation that were actually draining them. 3 days of silence revealed which relationships they actually missed and which they were relieved to have a break from. They let 3 draining friendships fade and invested more in 2 valuable ones. One person realized they were terrified of being alone with their thoughts. 3 days forced them to confront this fear and realize their thoughts weren't actually that scary, they'd just been avoiding them for so long they seemed threatening. They started meditating daily. One person realized they'd been telling themselves they wanted to write but never had time. 3 days revealed they had hours of time every day, they'd just been filling it with consumption instead of creation. They started a book that week and finished it 6 months later. One person realized they were spending money to solve problems they were creating by spending money. Buying lunch because they were too tired to cook, because they were staying up late watching shows, because they were stressed from work, because they needed more money, because they were spending too much. A cycle they'd never seen until they stepped out of it. Breaking the cycle in one place broke it everywhere. One person realized they hadn't had a single original thought in months. They'd been consuming other people's thoughts constantly, podcasts, articles, videos, books, but never processing any of it because they immediately consumed more. 3 days of silence let them actually think. They had insights about their career that changed their trajectory. One person realized they were using buying things as emotional regulation. Stressed? Buy something. Bored? Buy something. Happy? Celebrate by buying something. 3 days without spending revealed the emotions underneath the habit. They started dealing with emotions directly instead of medicating them with consumption. One person realized they could walk to most places they drove to. 3 days without spending on gas or Uber forced them to walk. They discovered their neighborhood, lost 5 pounds, and saved money. They kept walking even after the 3 days ended. One person realized their phone addiction was destroying their relationships. 3 days without digital distraction meant they actually talked to their spouse. Really talked for the first time in months. They realized their marriage was in trouble and started fixing it. Every single person realized they were more capable and needed less than they thought. This is the universal insight. It changes everything because it changes what you think is possible. When you realize you need less, everything opens up. You need less money, so you have more freedom in choosing work. You need less time shopping and consuming, so you have more time creating and building. You need less validation from others, so you make decisions based on your own goals. When you realize you're more capable, everything opens up. You can create instead of just consuming. You can solve instead of just complaining. You can build instead of just wishing. You stop being passive and start being active. These two insights together are transformational. You need less and you're capable of more. This combination means you have options you didn't think you had. Freedom you didn't think was possible. Agency you didn't know you possessed. Here's how to actually do this practice. I'm being specific because vague intentions produce nothing. You need structure. Pick 3 consecutive days. Ideally days where you don't have major obligations, but not vacation days where you're traveling or with family. 3 normal days where you control most of your time. Weekend plus Monday works. Or Wednesday through Friday if you can be disciplined during work. Tell the people who need to know. Your family, your partner, your roommate. I'm doing this thing for 3 days where I'm not spending money, not using digital entertainment, and being mostly quiet. It's intentional, not personal. I'll explain after. This prevents misunderstandings. Prepare minimally. Make sure you have food in the house. Make sure you have what you need for work. But don't over-prepare. Part of the value is figuring things out with what you have. Set up your documentation system. A notebook, a document on your computer, whatever. You'll write in it multiple times per day. Thoughts, observations, insights, struggles, whatever comes up. Start immediately. Don't wait for the perfect time. Don't build it up. Just start. Wake up on day 1 and begin. Follow the rules strictly. No money, no digital entertainment, minimal talking, daily creation, constant documentation. The rules create the conditions for insight. Bending them reduces the effect. Push through discomfort. Day 1 will be hard. Your brain will offer 1,000 reasons to quit. Notice the resistance, but don't give in to it. The discomfort is where the learning happens. Stay present. Keep noticing what you're thinking, feeling, wanting. Keep asking why. Why do I want to check my phone? Why do I want to buy coffee? Why do I want to call someone? The answers reveal your patterns. Create something each day. Doesn't matter what. Write something, make something, fix something, organize something. The act of creation changes how you see yourself. Document everything. Especially the insights that feel obvious. They won't feel obvious later when comfort returns. Write them down while they are fresh. Finish all 3 days. Don't quit early even if you think you got the point. The full 3 days matter. Day 3 insights are different from day 1 insights. After the 3 days, review what you documented. Look for patterns. What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about how you were living? What needs to change? Make 1 immediate change based on what you learned. Not 10 changes, 1. Cancel 1 subscription. Delete 1 app. Stop 1 habit. Start 1 practice. Make it concrete and immediate. Schedule the next 3 days. Put them on your calendar for 3 months from now. This isn't a one-time thing. This is a practice you return to regularly to reset your perspective. That's it. That's the practice. 3 days. Those are the rules. This is what you'll discover. I've done this probably 30 times in my life. Sometimes when things are going well, to make sure I stay sharp. Sometimes when things are going badly, to remember what actually matters. Sometimes just because it's been too long and I'm feeling soft and distracted. Every single time, I learn something important. Every single time, I come out clearer and more focused. Every single time, I make changes that improve my life. My children have done it. My father did it for 40 years. My grandfather did it for 50 years. It's become a family tradition because it works. So here's my challenge to you. Don't think about it. Don't plan to do it eventually. Don't modify the rules to make it more comfortable. Just do it. Pick 3 days this week or next. Follow the rules exactly. Push through the discomfort. Document what you learn. 3 days. 72 hours. That's all I'm asking. You can do anything for 3 days. If it doesn't change something important about how you see yourself and your life, never do it again. I'll be wrong and you'll have lost 3 days. But I won't be wrong. Because this practice has changed lives for 3 generations of my family and everyone I've taught it to. 3 days of living like you have nothing proves you need less than you think and you're capable of more than you believe. And those 2 insights, really understanding them, not just intellectually but experientially, change everything about how you make decisions, how you spend money, how you use time, how you build wealth. My grandfather survived the Holocaust and rebuilt a fortune because he knew he could survive and thrive with nothing. He'd done it. He had proof. You don't need to experience catastrophe to get that proof. You just need 3 days. Do it. Your life will change. Not because of what happens during those 3 days, but because of what you learn about yourself and carry forward into every day after. 3 days. That's all. Start now.